Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, after what the FBI is calling an attempted assassination of former U.S. President Donald Trump.
For a moment, we weren't quite sure what the status of Donald Trump was, but armed personnel were soon surrounding the stage.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin welcomes the Republican National Convention. What can the world expect? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take. On Saturday, July 13th, former President Donald Trump narrowly escaped an apparent attempt on his life while speaking at a rally in Butler County, Pennsylvania.
Take a look at what happened.
A witness at the rally spoke to Al Jazeera.
On his right cheek was a teardrop of blood right here. Then when he turned, you could see the right ear, from the top of the ear to the bottom, blood. Wasn't pouring blood, but it was blood.
The suspected shooter is Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old from Pennsylvania. Secret Service agents shot and killed him at the site. A 50-year-old man attending the rally was also killed, and 2 others were injured. Before being rushed from the stage, Trump raised a fist and addressed the crowd with 3 words: fight, fight, fight. This week, Trump says, he still plans on joining thousands of Republicans in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for the start of the Republican National Convention. He's set to be nominated as their candidate for President of the United States. Al Jazeera correspondent Patty Culhane is reporting from Milwaukee.
Block after block after block, barricades and fences assembled in a large ring around the arena where the Republican National Convention will be held, the Trump campaign insisting the event will go ahead.
And some protesters, like Omar Flores, are there already.
We're doing this because we don't want the Republicans here. We're fighting for immigrant rights, for reproductive rights, for Palestine, and ultimately they're just the opposite of everything that we want to see in this country.
Isiah Holmes is there too. He calls Milwaukee home.
I was born and raised here. My family has lived here going back, I don't even know how many generations on both sides.
He works there, reporting on his hometown.
I'm a reporter at the Wisconsin Examiner. I became interested in police interactions with the community and journalism and documentary film.
Much like the rest of the country, he was taken aback by what unfolded Saturday evening. We first talked to Isiah last week and checked back in with him on Sunday.
So in terms of the vibe in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin, it's not a good one. I mean, it really wasn't before this incident. It isn't now.
Since we first heard from him, he's been preparing for Trump and tens of thousands of Republicans to arrive in his hometown.
The U.S. Marshals just did a big warrant fugitive roundup of folks, arrested a bunch of people.
And driving outside the city, Isiah saw reinforcements on their way in.
Your anxiety kind of goes up when you're driving on the highway and all of a sudden you see 3 Humvees drive past and you know where they're going. There's a lot of concerns about how police may interact with protesters or how Republican convention goers or people supporting those folks may interact with people within the city who don't agree with the convention being here.
Isiah knows the city and its people pretty well.
Close to 70% of all Black people who live in Wisconsin live within the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee also has the highest concentration of Native American people who live in Wisconsin. It's a Democratic city, and it's also regarded as one of the nation's most segregated. There's definitely a very strange vibe in the city right now, and you can sense that buildup, for sure. It feels like kind of the quiet before the storm. Hopefully there is no storm.
Well, I will tell your listeners that for the very first time in my life, I am bringing a flak jacket and a bulletproof helmet to the Republican National Convention because you will see people walking around with AR-15s.
On Friday, before the shooting in Pennsylvania, and before Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane left for Milwaukee, she was making preparations as well.
I was like, oh my God, I haven't had one of these on since Iraq.
But there is business to attend to at the convention and an election ahead. So we wanted to talk to Patty about that too. So, Patty, this convention, or RNC, happens every 4 years and is a chance for the Republican Party to nominate their candidate for president, in this case, Donald Trump.
As the world can see, we are under the leadership. The Republican Party is bigger, stronger, more vibrant, and more united than ever before.
The Democrats will have their convention in a few weeks, and I know that you've been to a political convention before, but for those who haven't, walk us through the pomp and circumstance that comes with these 4 days. What's the atmosphere like, and what actually happens?
Well, it's really joyous. It's a coronation. It's a celebration. Unlike the Democrats, there's no question about who's going to be the candidate at the end of the convention. I mean, the people who go there are the true believers, the huge supporters. There's a lot of drinking, at least in the skyboxes, and where the media tends to go. And, it's a chance for everyone within the party to network. It's also a chance for the rising stars. They get speaking time before the candidate actually comes up. And so there's speeches throughout the day. Then there's competition to see who gets the prime time, the nighttime speeches. And they're going to vote on the platform, and that's going to be sort of their official document. This is what we stand for.
We're going to talk about that in depth a little bit more, but before we get there, we know that this RNC is a little bit different from most already, and that starts with who is putting it on. Several committee staff members were replaced, including the RNC chair, with Trump loyalists. And one of the replacements is Lara Trump. Exactly. Now the co-chair, Trump's daughter-in-law. And according to a Washington Post report, staff at one point had a special screening test before they were hired. What do we know about the movings and shakings inside of the RNC?
This has been widely reported. The RNC denied it in kind of couch language, but basically they fired a bunch of people. And then they made people apparently reapply for their jobs, and they were asked if they believed the 2020 election was stolen. And some of the staffers told the media they felt like they had to say it was stolen, even if they didn't believe it, because they wanted the job. I mean, so I think for your audience, you might be asking, wait, how is this possible? So you have a candidate who's been charged with 90-plus felonies. He's been found guilty by a jury of sexual assault and then defaming the woman who he sexually assaulted, according to the jury. And he's charged with stealing classified documents, leading an insurrection on the Capitol to try and subvert the peaceful transfer of power. And he's their candidate. And he is 100% made the RNC in his image. They are 100% Trump loyalists. I think John McCain wouldn't recognize the Republican Party as it is right now. And, it is what it is.
I wonder if people listening might think, isn't that what a party does? How unusual is that to try to stack this Republican National Committee, which puts on this convention, with people who are loyal to the nominee?
Look at the Democrats right now, right? Normally, there's back and forth. There's people are saying Joe Biden can't be president. Joe Biden's camp is saying he can be president. There's usually some dissent and it's not like a loyalty test to a person. It's a loyalty test to principles. And what we've seen in the past, I think Republicans would say this is normal.
After the break, the unusual policy and party platform of the RNC. So, Patty, we touched on this earlier. I promised we'd get back to it. Let's talk about policy. I'm pulling them up here from the heavily capitalized Republican Party platform. I have it in front of me.
Never saw all caps in a policy platform.
I can imagine. I think my team and I were just as shocked. Wanted to make sure it was really the real thing.
It was.
This is a list of agenda items on this, quote, forward-looking agenda. I'm just going to read you a few lines. Seal the border and stop the migrant invasion, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country. One more. Deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again.
It really does set the tone for what the priorities are going to be within the administration. There's going to be a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias. We will keep men out of women's sports, ban taxpayer funding for sex change surgeries, and stop taxpayer-funded schools from promoting gender transition. Okay, first of all, there are no men in women's sports.
Is there any protest around these policies by Republicans or anyone? How is this going down?
It's going down just like Donald Trump is. I mean, he said it, therefore it's right in the Republican Party right now. I think the only dissent is that from the pro-life, anti-abortion group that thinks it didn't go far enough because Trump has made very clear that he sees the abortion issue as a liability. So really the only thing they say is it goes back to the states' rights, which is, he said, we need to couch this. We need to just basically simmer down on the abortion issue because every single time since the Supreme Court, because of his justices, overturned Roe v. Wade, every single time it's gone to the voters have said, no, we believe in reproductive freedom for women. And so the only criticism is that they don't go far enough. So if you look at the Project 2025, which I know your listeners have heard you talk about, one of the things that group wants to do is ban abortion pills and ban being able to mail abortion pills. And that's more than half of abortions in this country are done through prescriptions. So this platform is not the same as the Project 2025, but there is some question if he's elected, if he would go that far.
So taking this back to the convention, one of the things that's typically announced and causes a lot of excitement among the party loyalists is the vice president pick, and then that person speaks. What are you expecting there?
I'm expecting quite the show, right? So Donald Trump is at his heart a reality TV star. And so he's teased out these 3 different candidates, possibly Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, the governor of North Dakota, J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio. I would not put it past Trump to pick somebody completely out of left field and just make a show of it.
This isn't a game. I'm not playing games. Who will succeed? Who will fail? And who will be the apprentice?
There will be some sort of drama because that's just how Donald Trump operates. I could be wrong. He could play it safe, but I don't think he's going to, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot of Make America Great Again. I'm imagining there's going to be a lot of flags because that's what we do now. We have flags. We'll see.
Well, based on several polls, it looks like Trump will win the presidency, or it will be very close, which means heading into this convention, this presidency is his to lose. With that in mind, what are you looking out for this week? And what do you think of the polls? Because we know polls are not always reliable.
The polls, since everyone got cell phones, polls are pretty hard to judge. But the one thing I would like your listeners to know is when it comes to polls, support for Trump tends to it's muted, right? A lot of people will not tell pollsters they're voting for Trump. So he always performs better than he does in the polls. Without question, in my mind, right now, if Joe Biden is the candidate, if nothing else changes, Donald Trump will win.
Wow.
Because Donald Trump has his base of support. Like, he's reached his support. He's not going to bring new people in. We know Donald Trump. You've decided you're for him or you're against him.
Right.
And people are saying, well, why can't Biden win? It's so close in the polls. Because Democrats in general, by their nature, need to be enthusiastic to go vote, right? Voting in this country is a pain. It just is.
Yeah.
Especially if you can't do early voting. And let's not forget, Republicans are very against early voting. If you vote on election day, chances are you're going to stand in line for 4 hours, maybe longer, maybe 2, maybe 3. And it's on a Tuesday. Most people work on Tuesdays, and we don't give people time off to go vote. So if Democrats are not enthusiastic about their candidate, they tend to not show up. And across the board, every poll says very few people are enthusiastic to vote for Joe Biden. So yes, if Joe Biden is the candidate, according to most pollsters, most experts, most pundits, most Democrats, they say Donald Trump will be the next president.
And that's The Take. We're continuing to report on the shooting of former President Donald Trump, and we'll have more for you on that tomorrow. In the meantime, you can follow the story on aljazeera.com. This episode was produced by Amy Walters and Sarí el-Khalili with Veronique Eshaya, Mohammed Zain Shafi Khan, and me, Malika Bilal. It was edited by Noor Wazwaz. The Take production team is Amy Walters, Ashish Malhotra, Catherine Nouhan, Chloe K. Lee, David Enders, Duha Mosaad, Khaled Soltan, Manahil Naveed, Marcos Bartolomé, Noor Wazwaz, Sarí el-Khalili, Sonia Bhagat, Tamara Khandaker, and Veronique Eshaya. I'm your host, Malika Bilal. Our sound designer is Alex Roldan. Joe Plourde mixed this episode. Alexandra Locke is The Take's executive producer, and Ney Alvarez is Al Jazeera's head of audio. We'll be back tomorrow.